Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. President Trump told NBC News over the weekend that Iran is ready to make a deal, but he's not quite ready to accept a ceasefire agreement. The president also suggested the new supreme leader of Iran may not even be alive. We have an update for you. Also, exiled Iranian Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi said over the weekend that he's ready to lead Iran's transition as soon as the Islamic Republic fails. We have those details, too. Israel's confirmed that last week's Michigan synagogue attacker's brother was a Hezbollah terrorist commander. We have the full story from the New York Post on this. And the South Carolina House passed a $15.4 billion spending proposal last week in what House Ways and Means Chair Bruce Bannister characterized as an optimistic map for the future of the Palmetto State. The state Senate will now have their chance to put their stamp of approval before sending it to Government Master. We have an overview of what was included for you in today's show.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Iran's foreign minister Abbas Arashi claimed in an interview yesterday that the new supreme leader of Iran, Khomeini, is in excellent health after much speculation over his condition following reports that he was injured in the opening firing of Operation Epic Fury. Arashi told Arabic language news outlet Al-Arabi Al-Jadid that Khomeini remains in control of the situation. Khomeini has yet to make a public appearance since succeeding his father, the late Ayatollah. President Trump over the weekend claimed to NBC News that he was hearing that the new leader may already be dead. Kristen Welker spoke to the president on the phone. Trump said on the phone, "I don't know if he's even alive. So far, nobody's been able to show him. I'm hearing he's not alive, and if he is, he should do something very smart for his country, and that's surrender," Trump said. He called the news of his death a rumor, though. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth also said that the younger Khomeini was wounded and likely disfigured and called his written statement a weak one. The War Secretary said Iran has plenty of cameras and plenty of voice recorders. Why a written statement? I think you know why. His father, dead. He's scared. He's injured. He's on the run, and he lacks legitimacy. Khomeini was named the new supreme leader earlier last week after the initial U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran killed his father a week earlier. President Trump declined to say whether there was one particular Iranian leader whom he would like to see take over as supreme leader, saying instead, we have people that are living that would be great leaders for the future of the country. Asked whether he's in touch with any of the potential leaders, the president said, I don't want to say that. I don't want to put them in jeopardy. There's been a flurry of conjecture surrounding the leader's health in recent days. An evaluation from Israel suggested he was injured during the initial onslaught of the war, which, as you know, claimed the lives of family members, again, including his father, the Ayatollah. But in a statement to combat that speculation, it was reported that Iran's new supreme leader traveled to Moscow for a leg injury that was personally offered by Putin following injury sustained in the airstrike. So they're not denying that he was injured, but they're denying that he's not capable of leading. Young Khomeini is believed to have been wounded during the initial attacks. Khomeini has now allegedly been transported out of Iran and received a, quote, successful operation at one of Russian President Putin's presidential residences. This is according to the Kuwaiti newspaper Al Jazeera. The publication claims that the highly classified surgery involved Khomeini being flown to Moscow aboard a Russian military plane. The account remains unverified. Al Jazeera stated it obtained the information from a high-ranking source close to the new Iranian supreme leader. Given the seriousness of his wounds, though, Khomeini allegedly received care at a specialized medical facility. And again, it is believed that this was arranged by President Putin. The leader is thought to have been transported there in order to get this very serious surgery. Iranian authorities say that they have arrested dozens of people accused of spying for Israel across several provinces. A news agency named Fars, which is affiliated with Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, reported Sunday the West Al-Jabarian prosecutor's office had arrested 20 individuals in the northwestern city of Urmira for allegedly providing Israel with information about military, police, and security sites, including potential information about the new leaders in Iran. Now, speaking of leaders in Iran, yes, there's a lot of questions on whether or not Khomeini is actually in charge and if he'll be able to continue to be in charge. The president, late last week and even over the weekend in some of his comments, has said that the Iran military has been completely destroyed. They have no naval operations. They have no Air Force operations, that they are pretty much just barely surviving. So how much longer will it be for the people of Iran living in what has to be just horrible conditions? I would suspect that there's a lot of areas where they have no electricity, have no communications. Food will start being short. And in a situation that was already very volatile, you got to believe that the Iranian people are waiting for the right opportunity to seize control of their country. And if they do that, there has to be someone ready to assume command, to assume leadership. One potential leader could be the exiled Iranian Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. He said over the weekend that he's ready to lead Iran's transition, quote, as soon as the Islamic Republic fails. As the war, of course, enters its third week this week, Pahlavi, the son of the late Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, said that he's been working in recent months to develop a transition plan should the Iranian regime collapse to ensure the country does not experience a disruption in governance. Pahlavi said in a social media post that capable individuals have been identified both inside and outside of Iran to lead what he called a transitional system. Pahlavi also told Laura Trump, appearing on Fox News, that he doesn't believe anything but a democratic form of government will actually succeed.
I don't think as an Iranian Democrat, and millions of Iranians agree with me on that, that we will settle for anything less than a democratic outcome. In the same way that today's free world democracies are in fact based on the very principles that guarantees people equality under the law and sovereignty, and only free elections and the ballot box should determine whoever will have a role to play. I don't see any formula outside democracy that will be lasting, tenable, or acceptable. The only way that people will accept the outcome is to make sure that they are in charge of their own destiny. And I don't think there's any other way than a democratic system that can guarantee that. That's a recipe for stability, long-term progress, a guarantee of protecting all the citizens of all of their rights. I don't think that anything outside of democracy will provide that and will leave us, instead of stability, a path to potentially chaos and domestic strife and civil war. I'm sure that's not the outcome that we are hoping to have. Therefore, I insist on the fact that democracy is our goal, and I think Iranians are quite capable of managing their own affairs. They have to be given that opportunity.
And I believe they're probably going to be given that opportunity much sooner than later, because things seem to be apparently shifting in that direction. Yes, I understand that the Islamic Republican Guard has crowned the son of Khomeini their new leader, their supreme leader. And again, we don't know his condition, other than reports are that he's in Russia right now, that he had a leg operation on injury sustained during the initial attack. Mr. Pahlavi has lived in exile since 1979, when the Islamic Revolution toppled Iran's monarchy and established the Islamic Republic as we know it today. We do know for sure things are not going to be the same in Iran, because Donald Trump has had the gumption to stand up and to finally put this madness to an end. GOP shots like Ozempic are everywhere right now, but here's the question. What happens when you stop? If you don't fix the reason your body gained weight in the first place, the weight comes back. Joey Hudson here at PhD Weight Loss. They don't just treat the weight as the problem. They treat it as a symptom of metabolic dysfunction, hormone imbalance, or inflammation. If you don't correct those, no shot or hack will ever last. PhD looks at you holistically to improve your health span, your energy, and your longevity, because losing weight is one thing, but keeping it off for life is another. Right now, when you call PhD Weight Loss and mention Joey Hudson, you'll receive 2 free weeks in the program, and they'll cover the cost of your food. That's real results with zero guesswork. Again, mention Joey Hudson when you call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900. Visit them online at myphdweightloss.com. Stop chasing weight. Start fixing what actually is causing it. Call today. Be sure and tell them Joey Hudson sent you. Get you 2 free weeks in the program. 864-644-1900. There are conflicting stories on how the partial government shutdown has affected air travel. We're told that hundreds of TSA officers have quit over the federal budget battle that has left them working without pay now for, a couple of weeks. This has, you've had long hours of flight delays, we're told. In some cases, 2-3 hour waits to get into airports. More than 300 TSA officers have tossed in the towel since the shutdown began February the 14th. While a whole host of other workers have been taking unscheduled absences. This, according to CBS, to a CBS News report citing internal TSA statistics. Now, Hobby Airport in Houston, according to the report, saw 53% of its TSA officers call out March 8th and 47% the next day, while other airports have seen double-digit call-out averages since the shutdown started. You can't blame them on one hand. If you're not being paid, I don't know that you can be expected to show up, right? But at the same time, you've got a responsibility. They are essential workers. And under a shutdown, essential workers should continue to show up for work. It's really a dilemma, isn't it? Because I'm sure that these people who aren't showing up for work probably feel like that they have to have another job somewhere to make money if they're not going to be paid by the U.S. government. But at the same time, you gotta believe that since they recognize that they're essential to our air safety, to the to the smooth operations of airports around the country, that they would step up and do a little extra for their country. I don't know. Other airports affected, John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York City, reported they had seen 21% of its TSA staff calling in sick. And we saw this in previous shutdowns as well. They don't just show up, they just call in sick. How do you argue with that? They have sick days as part of their agreement, their work employment. So how do you argue with that? We're told that Atlanta International had a 19% rate. Louis Armstrong New Orleans International Airport was slammed with 14% calling out as well. Those rates were logged even before TSA officers missed their first paycheck this past Friday, with some airports seeing travelers standing in security lines for hours as their drastically depleted staff struggled to keep up with the passengers coming through their airports. Look, I wouldn't want to be traveling right now. I'll be honest. And travel doesn't really bother me. I've traveled a lot over the years. And in most cases, I enjoy it. But there's nothing more miserable than having to stand in a long line to get into an airport. And the stress of knowing that you might miss your flight. There were some photos of Chicago's O'Hare yesterday morning showing massive lines, with one traveler warning not to brave the wait unless your life depends on it. I don't know how you've planned for that. Do you show up? I mean, typically you show up an hour or so ahead of time. Does this mean now you should show up 2 hours, 3 hours? Now, from what I'm told, and I haven't been over to GSP, but I've talked to some people who have, and they claim GSP is operating just like normal. So I guess it just depends on the size of the airport and the city that you're in. Florida's Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport had similar scenes Sunday morning, we're told, though both airports were able to process the passengers and had cleared up by the afternoon yesterday. We saw very similar chaos last weekend, with some airports across the country advising travelers to arrive upwards of 5 hours before their flights. Again, it's hard to plan if you don't know how long it's going to take you to get through. Now, DHS, of course, has spent the shutdown blaming Democrats for delays. ABC News reported you may be experiencing longer than average wait times due to the ongoing Democrat shutdown of TSA and the Department of Homeland Security. Over the weekend, we heard from some of those Democrats. Senators Adam Schiff, Cory Booker, deflected blame when pressed whether their party should vote to end the Department of Homeland Security shutdown. This was yesterday. Schiff said the Democrats wanted to separate ICE from the rest of the funding and offered to do so multiple times to fund the other agencies affected by the shutdown, and says the Democrats have given Republicans multiple chances to end the shutdown. Here he is.
Is it responsible for Democrats to hold up DHS funding with the threat of terror attacks looming during this conflict?
No, Kristen, as you know, we offered vote after vote, resolution after resolution, even as recently as this week, to reopen those agencies, to fund them, and the Republicans voted it down. We said, let's wall off ICE funding. Let's fund these other agencies that protect the country. And the Republicans, one after another, voted them down, voted down funding TSA, voted down funding the Coast Guard, voted down funding FEMA. So Republicans are controlling both houses in the presidency. They can't very well blame the minority party for their own inability to govern, particularly when they're voting down Democratic motions to reopen these agencies.
Now, over on CNN, Jake Tapper also confronted Senator Cory Booker with similar questioning, asking, isn't it time for Democrats to reopen and refund DHS?
Isn't it time for Democrats to reopen and refund DHS?
So first of all, Democrats have tried multiple times to try to get TSA, CISA, the Coast Guard funded. Republicans have refused time and time again to fund.
Yeah, they want the whole agency funded.
They want the whole agency. ICE is still out there doing reckless things in communities. ICE is still arresting and detaining American citizens. ICE is still having unmasked people jumped out of unmarked cars, abducting people from the streets, barreling into homes. Even Americans, even veterans are being swept up in ICE's chaos. I will not approve another dollar for ICE, given all that they're doing. But we should be funding those TSA agents that keep us safe, CISA, Coast Guard. And for Republicans to refuse to do it is unacceptable.
Well, Senator, I agree with you. We should be funding them all, but especially TSA. And for him to say that ICE is still abducting people off the streets, they've never abducted people off the street unless they were breaking the law. It's just that simple. The Democrats continue to try to continue this narrative that ICE is a bunch of goons out there ignoring the law. They're simply doing what the American people elected Donald Trump to do in November 2024, to hunt down, arrest, and deport the worst of the worst. The illegals who are, first of all, in our country illegally, secondly, continue to break our laws. Get them out of our communities. And I think that's what the American people want. Senator, it's time to reopen our government. The New York Post is reporting that the brother of a terrorist who rammed a vehicle into a Michigan Jewish preschool that we talked about last week, that this brother was a Hezbollah commander. And this we know because Israeli Defense Forces have said they have the proof. Aman Mohammed Ghazali, he's 41 years old, was shot after driving his vehicle into Temple, Israel in West Bloomfield Township, Michigan last Thursday. His brother, Ibrahim Mohammed Ghazali, was responsible for managing weapons operations within a specialized branch of Hezbollah in a Bardur unit, the IDF said in a statement yesterday morning. This unit of the Lebanese terror group is responsible for launching hundreds of rockets towards Israeli civilians throughout the recent war with Iran, according to the IDF. Now, this may answer some questions, because the very early reports was that this guy had some terrorist ties, that he wasn't just some local person in that area of Bloomfield Township, Michigan, who was disgruntled, that he had a purpose, that he had a reason. And if, in fact, this turns out to be true, which the IDF so far has been very accurate in the information that they have given, then it explains things. It would explain that, yes, in fact, this was an organized terrorist attack. Ghazali's two brothers, a niece and a nephew, we're told, were killed in an Israeli strike on March the 5th in the town of Maskaraf, Lebanon, just days before the attack. The family had sat down for their fast-breaking meal during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan when they were struck, according to the reports. Ghazali, who was allowed into the U.S. in 2011 as the spouse of a U.S. citizen, was granted U.S. citizenship under President Obama in 2016, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Wow. We've got a person with known terrorist ties, and Barack Obama grants him U.S. citizenship. That's what's wrong with our country. That's why we need to be fearful of who's actually in our country. Now, as you know, last Thursday, he drove some 38 miles from his house in the heavily Muslim Detroit suburb of Dearborn Heights to be exact, to the Temple, Israel. It's one of the largest Reform synagogues in the country, which also includes a school and an early childhood center and school. After crashing his car, which, of course, was packed with fireworks and gasoline jugs, he exchanged fire with an armed security guard before eventually fatally shooting himself after becoming stuck in the blazing vehicle. Fortunately, and thank God, none of the 140 children, teachers, and staff inside the synagogue were injured in the attack. And in addition to God having his hand over that, we have some fast actions of Temple Israel's private security guard taking action to make sure that that further damage and loss of life didn't happen. U.S. Senator Lisa Slotkin told a news conference Friday if they had not done their jobs almost perfectly, we would be talking about an immense tragedy here with children gone. And the senator's right. In Dearborn Heights, a mosque held a service for Ghazali's relatives last weekend. The mosque leader, Imam Hassan Qazwani, said on Friday that he had only seen Ghazali once and condemned the synagogue attack. Qazwani told the AP, Islam forbids holding innocent people accountable for acts done by others. This unjustified Israeli attack on civilians in Iran and Lebanon gives no blank check to anyone attacking synagogues, civilians, and peaceful communities. Well, at least we agree on that. Now, of course, as a result of the war in Iran, we're seeing oil prices just fluctuate crazy. They're going up more than they're coming down. And this has put inflationary pressure in a lot of areas. Primarily, our fuel prices have gone up. Part of that is because of Iran's basically shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, or at least making it to where a lot of the shipping companies are fearful to send their ships through that passage. Well, President Trump is said to be preparing to announce that several countries have agreed to form a naval coalition to escort commercial vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. The Wall Street Journal reported this yesterday. The announcement could come as soon as this week, we're told, though discussions are ongoing about whether escort operations would begin immediately or wait until hostilities in the region subside. That could be a while. Publicly, some countries have been cautious about committing to such an escort mission because of how high tensions are in the area. And, of course, citing the risk of operating in a potential combat zone. That's the problem. This report follows comments Saturday of President Trump, who said multiple countries are expected to join the United States in sending warships to ensure the vital shipping route remains open. The president wrote on Truth Social, many countries, especially those who are affected by Iran's attempted closure of the Hormuz Strait, will be sending warships in conjunction with the United States of America to keep the strait open and safe. Trump continued, hopefully China, France, Japan, South Korea, and UK, and others that are affected by this artificial constraint will send ships to the area so that the Hormuz Strait will no longer be a threat by a nation that has been totally decapitated. Now, again, as you know, we talked about it a lot, the Strait of Hormuz is about a 21-mile wide canal located between Iran and Oman, and it's one of the world's most important energy choke points. Roughly one-fifth of the global oil supply passes through this very narrow waterway every single day, which means any disruption is a major concern for international oil markets. Does it take too many days of those ships not getting through for there to be a crisis in oil supply? In recent days, Iranian forces and affiliated groups have taken steps to disrupt shipping in that area, including harassment of commercial vessels, deployment of naval patrol boats, and threats to lay sea mines or launch attacks on tankers in that area. These commercial shipping operations don't want to take that risk. You can't blame them. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has long used small, fast attack boats, drones, and anti-ship missiles positioned along Iran's coastline to threaten traffic moving through the strait. It's a form of blackmail because they have the ability in that narrow passage to bring on a lot of hurt. And again, the commercial shipping vessels, they're not equipped to do that. They don't have guns and rockets to protect themselves. So what do? They just don't try to navigate through there. They sit with their oil ready to go, but not willing to take the risk of being destroyed, losing the life of of everyone on the ship, not to mention the cargo. U.S. officials have warned that these tactics that Iran is using could allow Iran to temporarily disrupt or slow the flow of oil, which we've seen at a limited basis. This planned coalition that the president is talking about would aim to deter those threats by placing naval escorts alongside commercial ships traveling through the waterway. Basically, you're going to have a Navy ship beside you ready to fire back. If some of these Iranian boats try to attack, they're going to have to get through a naval warship first. Trump said the U.S. is prepared to continue military operations to keep the shipping lane open if necessary. He wrote, in the meantime, the United States will be bombing the hell out of the shoreline and continually shooting Iranian boats and ships out of the water. One way or the other, we will soon get the Hormuz Strait open, safe, and free, in all caps. And I think he means it, don't you? Look, we can't afford for this to for oil to be bottlenecked over there for any period of time. If the prices have already gone up, as you've seen, in some states more so than others, California, because of their crazy ecological programs In some parts of California, they're looking at $6 a gallon gasoline. Now, a lot of that's self-inflicted because Gavin Newsom has all these crazy ideas of what the automobile market should look like out there. He's still pushing the Joe Biden programs of electric vehicles, which we all know is not going to work. But we got to keep the oil supply flowing so that this war doesn't cause a lot of hurt on the world all across the globe. And I think President Trump is committed to doing that. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. All eyes will be on the South Carolina Senate soon to see what they do with the state budget that was passed by the South Carolina House this past week. The House passed a $15.4 billion spending proposal late March the 10th, in what Ways and Means Chair Bruce Bannister characterized as a, quote, optimistic map for the future of the Palmetto State. Now, the spending plan, it's a little bit more than last year's, includes $250 million in tax relief, $1.3 billion in new infrastructure funding, and pay raises for teachers and state workers. The Post-Inquiry reports there's also increased legislative oversight over the South Carolina High School League and millions in new dollars for schools to purchase defibrillators. Representative Bannister told colleagues, optimism has defined the state of South Carolina for generations. That's what this budget is. Now, it's also not the final plan, because the state Senate gets their shot at it now. And as we often see, the state Senate has their own ideas about things. Here are several key takeaways, though, that we will be watching. The state population, of course, is growing. Every time you pick up a newspaper, a magazine, particularly a tourism-type magazine, you see where people are moving to South Carolina in droves. They're coming from New York. They're coming from California. They're coming from some of these liberal, loony states. People are just tired of it, and they're finding the beauty of the Palmetto State. That's good and it's bad. Key areas of the budget, we're told, are continuing to see increased investment to support industry that's coming here as well, that will be supplying jobs to those people who are moving here. Beyond the top lines in the budget, various under-addressed areas of government, according to the Post and Courier, saw some increases. For example, $26 million to shore up fire district budget shortfalls, and another $28 million to fund deferred maintenance in the state's prison system. $175 million for the planned comprehensive cancer hospital housed within the Medical University of South Carolina. A 2% pay raise for all state employees, plus a proposed $50,500 salary floor for new teachers. And you have to applaud this. We need to pay our teachers a fair salary so that we will attract the top teachers in the nation. Representative Bannister admitted it's a bigger budget than last year. He told reporters prior to the House debating the bill, the general fund is growing, so the budget is going to be bigger. The increased spending comes with a series of potential tax reductions, which are good, though. A long-awaited reduction in the state's top income tax rate that is soon headed to the governor's desk, as well as a proposal to conform with tax provisions under President Donald Trump's Big Beautiful Bill. This will allow South Carolinians to access various benefits under the new code. Now, Governor McMaster, in his final budget proposal, because the process works like this. The governor submits his executive budget to the legislature, and this is sort of his guideline. Now, it has no bearing at all. I mean, the House, when they start their deliberation, they review it, they acknowledge it, but they're not under any obligation whatsoever to adopt it. And quite often you see some things and other things you don't see. In his final budget, the governor had ambitious plans for the state highway fund, for example. Included more than $1 billion to improve the system's stagnant funding streams. Now, the House approved just half of that amount. That's good budgeting, Mr. Bannister said, particularly at a time when the legislature is racing to cut taxes and needs are mounting, he said, or said the Post and Courier reported. In all, the House Ways and Means Committee received $6.2 billion in new budget requested this year. Ultimately, they approved just one-third of those. In total, about $249.2 million was allotted for bridge modernization, $100 million for local county transportation funds, and $125 million for interstate acceleration. Now, one of the things that was not in there, the House refused to make a decision right now to infuse the the Department of Commerce with $150 million to make up for shortfalls in the development of the electric vehicle manufacturing facility known as Scout Motors just outside of Columbia. This has drawn a lot of attention, particularly among conservatives. This whole project is a boondoggle. If you're not familiar with Scout Motors, the legislature very quickly, a couple of years back, approved a incentive package like no one has ever seen to lure Scout Motors into the state to build electric vehicles. This has not been a very rosy relationship. There's been a lot of problems with this. And most recently, Scout Motors kind of thumbed their noses at state officials and announced that their international headquarters was going to be in Charlotte. But at the same time, they came back asking for more money. And I applaud the legislature for not being so fast this time in approving it. Representative Bannister said, it's not in this budget. We're still working on how we got where we are, and the members need to be comfortable that this isn't just a willy-nilly mistake. The House also has about $250 million in tax relief included in its budget. This is a lot less than the $500 million it cuts currently in the hopper under the Senate's draft plan, but it's progress. A lot of good stuff in there. For example, if you own a boat, I do, we're going to see some relief in property taxes. South Carolina had, if not the highest, one of the highest property tax rates for boats. We're going to see additional tax relief for homeowners, those 65 and above. And as mentioned a minute ago, we're going to see some relief on our state income tax. It's not going to completely go away yet, but we're headed in that direction. Now, like a lot of the other prior budget debates, I mean, they spent hours talking about these things. The Post and Courier said they spent hours lobbing political attacks at each other. Most of the action occurred between members of the Freedom Caucus and the House GOP. We've seen this movie before. State Representative Sarita Egerton, a Republican from Spartanburg, failed in her amendment to reduce the salary of Interim Department of Public Health Director Edward Simmer, who makes $258,960 per year. She wanted it to go to $1, saying he was serving unconstitutionally after his confirmation was rejected by the Senate last year. This has been a big issue. Anderson Republican Representative April Comer also attempted to slash the budget of Tri-County Technical College to $1 over allegations a transgender individual, pictures of whom she shared on the screen in the legislative chambers, used the women's bathroom there. She told the Post and Courier, this college had the opportunity to protect the policy that would put protections for these girls in place, but they chose not to do so. A lot of these things didn't happen, though. Didn't make it. But there's still a lot to come before our budget is finally approved. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.